Bajaj Auto shares hit a record high after the company says that the board will consider buyback in 5 days. Rajiv Bajaj says it will be logical to assume any buyback would be higher than the 2,500 crore rupees that was exercised in 2022.
The Supreme Court declines to transfer the Adani Hindenburg case to the CBI, gives SEBI 3 months to wrap up the probe in its entirety. The Apex Court says report by third parties cannot be treated as conclusive proof. Adani Group stocks rally in trade.
Hello and welcome to Markets Today, the show where we aim to get you all the key data points to gear you up for the next trading session. I'm Nigel D'Souza, and joining me, my colleague Surbhi Upadhyay. Surbhi.
Hi Nigel. Well, quite an exciting day, but the end was down. We have lots of ground to cover, and that's exactly what we'll do over the course of the next 20 odd minutes. We will have all the big developments covered for you. Of course, all the top corporate voices, all the top corporate action, and the events that you need to be mindful of as we step into tomorrow. But before tomorrow, there is today. And today there was a fair amount of volatility and finally a pretty negative close, Nigel.
Well, that's right, Surbhi. You know, the bounces got sold into in today's trading session. And we woke up to Qs itself, where you had the yields that spiked up, where the dollar index as well was stronger. And the Asian markets a little bit jittery. So we had a challenge up ahead. And that's why, in fact, we did see that, you did have the Nifty that's slid in trade. It went to around 21,500 odd, but at least managed to defend that mark. The Nifty is 20 DMA, though, comes in at around 21,290. So we're around 210 points away from those levels. At least in the near term, the markets believe that that level should hold out. The global-facing themes, IT, metals, both of them came in for a knock in today's trading session. And both of them did pull back considerably in trade. The Nifty Bank, the only good news was it saw a day of consolidation. Last few days, it's been pulling back a couple of 100 points. Today, at least, it defended that 20 DMA odd. But the mid-caps, as has been the case, Surbhi, over the last few days, the mid-caps continue to outperform. And that was the case today as well. The index came off the high of the day. But at least if you pick the right stock, you pick the right theme to play, then you made some money.
No, absolutely. I think today, as you said, it was the first day after many, many days that the texture of the market was not buy every dip. It was caution. And it was actually sell some of the bounces that we were getting. And we need to see if this becomes a pattern or if this is a one-off. The issue is really with global markets. And global markets right now have had all of one day when they've come back from the New Year break. So tonight, I'll be watching out for the NASDAQ very closely, for the yields very closely, and the dollar, because both the yields and the dollar on the first trading day of the year, they went up. So let's see if we have more follow-through on that. The data points will become very, very important to get more, clarity and direction. Tonight, we get the FOMC minutes, and let's see if that gives us any more clues into what the Fed might do next. Will it be that eager to cut rates or not? And then later in the week, we have the private sector jobs report in the US, and then finally the non-farm payrolls report, the official US government report. And that's going to be very, very critical to then ascertain the pace of these rate cuts, because that is pretty much what the rally has been built on. So we need to be a little patient. Next couple of days, next 48 hours, very, very critical from the market setup standpoint. But let's quickly run through what we have lined up for you on the show. It's a packed half an hour. We'll start with the top movers of the day. Hormuz will get us all that action. And then, of course, we talk about Bajaj Auto, which literally was the stock of the day. The company has come out with a buyback announcement. The stock zoomed ahead, and Sonia will give us all the details.
Adani Group stocks as well were buzzing in trade after the Supreme Court verdict in the Adani Hindenburg case. Ashmit will get us all of those details. And last but not the least, we'll delve into the key market events to watch out for tomorrow's trading session. All right, let's get to the first segment of the day, though. Hormuz is standing by to tell us all the top stock movers of the day. Hormuz, take it away.
Yeah, it was a down day, right? But then there were a lot of stocks that were moving around, and I cannot not talk about Bajaj Auto, even though it's the stock of the day. I'm sure Sonia will have more insights on that. But the announcement came in for the buyback proposal on the 8th of January. Towards the close of trade, the stock crossed the 7,000 mark for the first time intraday, ending almost 4.5% higher. So that was the stock. That was a stock that did well. But what didn't do well today was IT. And as the earnings season is drawing near, consensus estimates are turning bearish about this not being a very good quarter. and as a result, the stock price was reflective of it. Emphasis, Infosys, LTI, Mindtree, all of them having a down day in today's session. Adani Group stocks had a fair bit of volatility today ahead of the Supreme Court verdict. As the verdict also came out, the stocks swung a bit, but then most of them ending higher in today's session. Enterprises, Ports were among the top gainers on the Nifty, and Green and Wilmar also having a good day. What had a very good day though was PSU banks, and while the Nifty bank was an underperformer, the PSU banks did very well. Bank of Maharashtra after its quarterly update, UCO Bank, Canara Bank, Central Bank of India, all of them doing well in today's trading session. What has done really well over the last few days though is Spark, and that stock ended 15% higher today, and this was not the only day that the stock has surged. The stock has been in an uptrend since the 20th of December, from when it has gained almost 60%. So from levels of around 250, the stock has reached almost 400 levels today. And another one that did very well among the pharma space was Biocon, and the stock has seen good gains as well, and there was a fourth day of gain, and it's now at the higher end of the 14-month range that the stock is in, ending 6% higher today was Biocon. And lastly, what ended lower today was ICICI Lombard. It was the second day of losses for the stock, I beg your pardon, and the stock has fallen towards its 100-day moving average on the downside, 3% lower there for ICICI Lombard. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Harmaz, thank you very much for the action today. Quite a bit going on. Well, let's bring in our guests. We have Prakash Gaba joining in on the technicals, and we have Mayuresh Joshi to read the fundamentals for us. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good afternoon to both of you. Prakash, I'm going to come to you first because it was such a clear down day and a lot of levels were coming in question. The Nifty couldn't hold on to yesterday's low either. On the index, what are you advising?
On the index, good afternoon to you once again. I would say that 21,700 was a very crucial level on Nifty. It breached that yesterday, and today it tried to test it, but looks like it's weak now. Possibly we'll see, unless it crosses 21,700 on the upside, we must assume the Nifty to be down. Where there is a slide from here, possibly 21,400. If it's breached there, possibly 21,300. So there is a downside element here. Possibly the bias is downside on Nifty. When I look at the Bank Nifty indices, it breached a very important level of 48,100. So far it looks weak to me. With a very good chance we can see it slide to around 47,100. The important level is 48,100. Unless it closes above it, we must assume that it's down. So the bias is down. Nifty and Bank Nifty both.
Got it. All right, Prakash, pretty clear out there. The bias in the near term could be lower. On the Nifty Bank, 48,100, that's the level that we need to breach to see some kind of follow through. But Mayuresh, I want to talk about the stock of the day. That's Bajaj Auto. Well, the stock hit a fresh high today. The board says it will consider buyback in 5 days. Rajiv Bajaj says that it will be logical to assume that any buyback would be higher than the 2,500 crore rupee exercise that was carried out in 2022. Let's get in Sonia, though, to run us through that piece of data. Sonia, tell us more with regard to this piece of news. The street clearly liked it very much.
Oh, absolutely. Bajaj Auto was clearly the stock of the day today. The stock ended at a fresh high. It crossed the 7,000 rupee level for the first time ever. This after the management announced that they will be doing a buyback. They will consider a share buyback on the 8th of January. Now, they haven't given any details on either the quantum of the buyback, what the size is or the price is, but they did tell us that the buyback will be significantly higher than what they did last year around. Remember, in 2022, in June of 2022, they had approved a buyback of up to 2,500 crores. And they said, given that their cash pile has improved substantially since then, it just makes logical sense to do a higher buyback amount this time around. They have 20,000 crores of cash on their books. But I think the more important part for me is that the buyback aside, the fundamentals of the business are growing quite a bit. And Rajiv Bajaj was very optimistic this time around. Perhaps the most optimistic I've heard him in a while. He said that this time around, 2023 has been a good year for the company. They've re-engineered their business to invest in new technologies. Q3 was a record quarter for the company, and the year is turning out to be much better than what they expected. They're putting a lot of investments into new plants for KTM in Chakan, for example, a lot of investments in technologies and facilities for the Chetak. And they also said that whenever they have high cash on their books, they are looking to give back over 70% to their investors whenever the cash on the books crosses 15,000 crores. So all in all, buyback approval as well as strong, feedback from the management is what got the stock higher today.
Okay, all right, Sonia, thank you very much for that. Let's in fact hear out some of that commentary from Mr. Rajiv Bajaj that really gave wings to the stock today.
We were supposed to notify the exchanges today that we will be doing a buyback, and the board will meet on Monday at 4:30 to, decide upon the details. The rationale, quite frankly, is this: that as I said, we've been having an outstanding year. You've seen the results for the first half. You've seen hopefully what we have clocked in the third quarter in terms of sales from different verticals, a new record of 1.2 million vehicles sold in a quarter. Despite the fact that we keep investing in new technologies, products and markets, as you've seen with the Pulsar, KTM, Triumph, Chetak, electric three-wheeler, Brazil, etc. But, like was the case 31st of March last year, we will again end up at close to 20,000 crores of cash this year, and I don't think it's smart to sit on all that money.
Okay, all right. Well, that was clearly the stock of the day. Mayuresh, let's get your view. What do you do with the stock? Close to around 7,000 rupees. And Prakash, I want to understand from you technically how's it looking as well.
So Nigel, anybody holding on to the stock should clearly hold on. I think 2-3 factors apart from what Sonia mentioned. One, I think the exports has been a big laggard for Bajaj Auto, and I clearly heard Rajiv say 140,000 units is what they were probably doing at par on what they were doing in the past as well. And let's assume that the number that they're talking at is still around 66 to 70% of the peak volumes that they've done in 2022. So all the issues related to forex availability, so on and so forth, the issues in Egypt as far as three-wheeler exports were concerned, if that start normalizing, I think the export will give a huge push up in terms of volumes for a Bajaj Auto. The electrical three-wheeler EBITDA margin is at par with the ICE portfolio for Bajaj Auto as we speak. And as they mentioned, the new product launch is expected from the electrical two-wheeler Chetak and different platforms out there will further support growth on the electrical mobility platforms that Bajaj Auto has to offer compared to its competitors and peers as well. Valuations are a tad bit on the higher side, but I think cash flow yields have been stupendous with the cash on the book. The buyback that they're probably going to offer now is going to be a very tax-efficient way. Dividend yield at 2% also remains very, very attractive. So anybody holding on to Bajaj Auto should continue holding that.
Okay, all right. Let's get Prakash's take on it. Prakash, it's been such a high flyer in 2023, and now there's this news coming in. So bumper times continuing. But on technicals, what would you advise? I mean, can someone still buy now, wait for a dip? What should the approach be?
Well, I would say that basically when I look at the Bajaj Auto chart, technically the trend is still intact, up has not been compromised. In fact, it is stretched. When you see a stretching, we need to see some kind of an unstretching. Unstretching could be time-wise, price-wise, or both. Very strong support on Bajaj Auto at 6,600. As long as that holds, I think it's a viable. Can we go higher from here? Of course we can go higher. So we need to wait for a dip, a better price to come in. Very strong support is at 6,800 to 6,600. So if you get us in the vicinity of 6,800, I think it's a good buy for a long-term hold, Bajaj Auto. Short term, there could be some kind of a minor corrections.
Okay, all right, got that on Bajaj. Let's move on to the Adani Group stocks then. They cooled off, but they held on to gains. The Supreme Court has refused to order a SIT probe into allegations leveled by Hindenburg research report against the Adani Group. The Apex Court has given the market regulator, SEBI, 3 months to conclude its ongoing investigation in this particular matter. Ashmit Kumar is here with all of those details. Well, Ashmit, take us through the key takeaways from this judgment.
Well, fresh out of the winter break, the Supreme Court dived straight into the midst of action, coming out with the much-awaited verdict in the Adani-Hindenburg saga. Here are the important takeaways. Number one, the Supreme Court records in its judgment that SEBI had launched 24 cases of investigation into issues raised by the Hindenburg report. The Supreme Court records that out of 24, probe has been completed in 22. The Supreme Court has directed for the remaining 2 to be completed in 3 months' time. The 22 probes which have been completed, Supreme Court has directed for them to be taken to their logical conclusion. Number 2, the petitioners had sought for the issue to be investigated by the CBI. They had also sought for a court-appointed SIT to probe the allegations. Supreme Court has given an unequivocal no. The Supreme Court held that no case has been made out for transfer of this case to the CBI. The Supreme Court also recorded in its order that report by third parties like Hindenburg and like OCCRP cannot be treated as gospel truth. Number 3, the petitioners had raised allegations of conflict of interest against members of the expert committee appointed by the top court. The Supreme Court has rejected these claims by the petitioners. The Supreme Court held that no case of conflict of interest has been made out. Number 4, on the issue of regulatory framework, Supreme Court noted that as opposed to petitioners' claims that FPI norms were diluted to allow mischief, the disclosure norms were rather tightened. The Supreme Court held that no grounds were made out for revocation of the amendments made to the FPI and LODR regulations. The Supreme Court has also directed the Centre as well as the SEBI to consider the expert committee recommendations for strengthening the regulatory framework. And finally, number 5, Supreme Court has directed SEBI to probe short selling by the likes of Hindenburg. The Supreme Court has directed to probe if actions by Hindenburg may be in violation of Indian laws. The Supreme Court has also asked for suitable action in case of violations of existing regulations. Now, while findings of that SEBI investigations are still not known, leading legal voices are pitching this verdict as an exoneration for Adani, given that no criminal probe has been directed by the top court.
Okay, all right, Ashman, thank you very much for wrapping up all of that important court action for us. Mayuresh, a question to you. I mean, now that I think this perhaps settles a lot of the outstanding issues around the Adani group of stocks, would you look at any fresh purchases? I mean, stocks like Adani Ports anyway have been rallying quite a bit. Do you like anything within the group?
So at this juncture, Surabhi, I think the actionable remains with Ambuja Cement within the entire pack. Obviously, on declines, Adani Ports, ACC also are looking the stronger of the stocks within the whole group, both from a valuation perspective and as expectations for earnings growth. But Ambuja probably remains one of the more actionable items as we speak. The expectations in terms of better capacity utilizations over the next few quarters, resulting in a better absolute EBITDA and a better EBITDA per ton, will clearly reflect in terms of better numbers going forward. At the same time, the kind of capacity expansion that one really expects, you've just seen one recent commissioning at Ameta for ACC's plant, which is an integrated grinding plus clinker unit that has been put through. I think Ambuja looks probably an actionable item from the Adani Group stocks at this juncture. ACC, Adani Ports on pullbacks also probably look better of the stocks within the entire group for a medium to long term.
Okay, got that in terms of the Adani Group stocks. But Prakash, you're sounding a little bit cautious both on the Nifty and the Nifty Bank. I think we still have Prakash with us. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll try to get him back on the show. Mayuresh, though, could you tell us what about the cement stocks? The other ones. You mentioned Ambuja, but yesterday Ultratech's actually their update was quite disappointing. And that's what's made the street a little bit nervous. Earlier we were factoring in a good double-digit volume growth. But now the street appears a little bit nervous. What's your take?
I think if you extend this, Nigel, and you're a better judge in terms of how cement stocks and analyzing them as well. But I think over a longer period of time, I think if you leave aside a quarter or two, the next 3 to 4 years in terms of capacity expansions for a leader like Ultratech, both through the organic and the inorganic growth that they are pursuing, is obviously going to reflect very, very positively on volumes. The second aspect obviously is going to be with better utilization levels for the sector as a whole, and including individual stocks, that operating leverage component definitely gets played out. And as the operating leverage component gets played out on EBITDA and reported EBITDA per ton, I think the expectations in terms of government capex, both in terms of infrastructure and housing, will probably lead to a strong demand that probably comes on most cement companies. As far as supply factors are concerned, I think a lot of the headwinds that they faced a few quarters back, input costs should start stabilizing in the next few quarters. And with leverage in, I think the earnings and reported ROCs should show significant improvement as well. So Ultratech, JK Cement, I think some of the leadership stocks that we probably like from an EPS and an RS rating perspective on market space.
Okay. All right, Mayuresh, we'll leave it on that note for this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining in and giving us perspective on all the stocks and the themes that we've discussed today. Well, let's get you some important corporate commentary now. AC maker Blue Star expects competition to remain elevated in the market, but it is also confident of retaining its 15% market share. MD B. Thiagarajan tells CNBC-TV18 that the company saw robust demand during the festive season.
We also spoke to the management of Senco Gold and Diamonds. The jeweler is looking at higher growth in the diamond jewelry and is looking to increase the diamond share further from the current 12%. The company also plans to open around 18 to 20 stores and continues to hold on to its guidance of around 18 to 20% growth for FY24.
Welcome back. Here with us on Markets Forward. Let's now talk about some of the key data points and events that we need to be aware of tomorrow. Sonal is joining in with that list. Sonal.
Well, we are here with the earnings season, and tomorrow we kick that start with GM Breweries, which will report numbers tomorrow. So that is the first one. And the other one is JSW Ispat Special Products. So some of these small caps and mid caps which will be on our radar. Apart from that, we have an extraordinary general meeting for India Grid Trust. So watch out for that one. In terms of macros and global events, we'll have the minutes from Fed meeting that happened on 12th and 13th of December. And they will be released tonight. So we'll be watching out for that. Other than that, we'll have the Kaishan Services PMI data, which will be released tomorrow in the morning. We'll have initial jobless claims, which will be available, services PMI, and crude oil stock from EAI. This is with respect to the US markets. So a whole host of macro data from the global markets as well that we have to track.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Sonal, for joining and giving us all of those cues. But on that note, we'll have a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. As we wrap up, we leave you with some market opinion coming in from Kotak Investment. We'll also be back with more news and updates on the other side.
The trend in 24 will be far more pronounced as compared to 23 for a couple of fundamental reasons. 23 happened to be a year of more small cap and mid cap IPOs. We are seeing in the pipeline a pretty good buildup of even the large cap IPOs, similar to what you saw somewhat in CY21. So you're going to have large cap, mid cap, and small cap IPOs happening in 24. 24 will see larger IPOs across multiple sectors. Some of the new age companies will come to the market. You've already seen a few filings, and a few more filings are in the works. So you're going to see CY24 being a year for large cap, mid cap, as well as small cap. In that way, very different from CY23.
Start.